Well, thank you first of all for sparing us some time at Cinema Calls. Really do appreciate it. Thank you very much as well for the film, which I enjoyed immensely. I saw it for the first time last night, somewhat appropriately, I think, with my dog. Everyone else.
Oh, right.
The wife was not a fan, so I was left in a darkened room with just myself and the dog. So he slept through most of it. But I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I know from what I've read critically, it's been very well received, and it's also been well received by myself. I thought it was highly atmospheric, and that was well maintained, literally from the get-go. It was very ominous, I think, even from just the end of the credits, where you open with the quote from Dante's Inferno. And it just kind of never lets up from there. And once, obviously, we sort of progress onto the island, tension certainly ratchets up. And I certainly did find myself clinging to the side of the chair, and maybe the dog on more than one occasion.
Oh, good. Well, thank you.
As a Welsh boy, I know there's some stunning locations in Wales, and I guess maybe that would have had some bearing on your inspiration for choosing the Isle of Skye.
Yeah, with Isle of Mull, actually. I think
Isle of Mull, apologies.
Yeah, I did like the Isle of Skye, but people have some of it has been filmed on the Isle of Skye. I wanted to try and find somewhere that was a little bit different and not quite recognizable. And the part of the Isle of Mull is much more difficult to get to because there's no bridge. You know, it's 45-minute ferry, and the roads are really narrow, so it's difficult for trucks and all the rest of it. So where we ended up filming was a really tricky spot, but it was so beautiful, and it doesn't almost in some areas look very British. It's more Icelandic. It's got a little bit more of an alien feel to it. I think that's what I loved about it. And it was so important to find the right location for the film because it's such a big character, particularly in a film, you know, there's not much dialogue and he's there with his dog, then the dog goes missing. So, you know, the setting it was so important. But yeah, I mean, growing up in Wales, I mean, the story does come from the, originally, I read about it early 2000s, the Smalls Lighthouse story, which has now been made, you know, The Lighthouse and other films have, you know, all been inspired by that one little Welsh true ghost story. But that was my inspiration, and I wrote it probably back in 2005. So it goes to show how long it takes to get a film off the ground.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I picked up on, actually. There's been sort of more than a decade, you know, to you know, from when you originally wrote it to getting it into cinemas, and obviously very soon into homes as well. And I guess there must have been a great sense of elation when it all finally came together after shepherding it through for so long. Yeah. Was there also a sense of relief as well for you that you'd finally got to make something that had been sort of so close to you for so long?
Yeah, I think, you know, because I've written quite a few things, and I always have a very clear image of what how they're gonna play out in my head. And so actually between action and cut, it was quite easy with Chet. I knew exactly where the camera needed to go. I knew exactly what the sets needed to look like. I knew what his costume was. I knew, and to have it means I don't think about it anymore. I'm now thinking about something else. So it's a strange feeling. It's a huge, the weirdest time was when they built all the interior sets for the cottage in a studio up in Glasgow. And I'd come back from the island and drove the day before we started filming the interiors to the set and had a look round, and it was almost identical to the sketches that I'd exactly what I'd wanted. Chris Richmond, who's the production designer, did an amazing job. That was a really strange feeling because I was walking around inside my head. I hadn't, you know, all that was, I'd even drawn a plan for him and everything. You went, yeah, okay, fine, and that was amazing. So that, I think, from that point, it was great. That just exercised some demons that I'd had, Yeah, now I've got the next film in all planned out in my head with maps of someone's house and all that. So I go into too much detail. I don't, so it is.
I guess that sort of goes back to sort of time when you were working with storyboards as well, because obviously, where you have such a visual medium, not just in telling obviously the story on the screen, but from its concept and development, where somebody like yourself has that talent to be able to sketch things together as well. I certainly understand that you'll have such a clear vision, and it's nice to hear that that the end product was something that absolutely met your expectations.
Yeah.
Sorry. The original script, as we've covered, was developed more than a decade ago. How did that evolve during that 10 years, and how different was it from the original sort of version? How different is it than the final product that we see on the screen?
Well, the only major difference was he had a brother who was having an affair with his wife, and he accidentally killed the brother, and the wife had already died, and there was this. So it was quite a complex story, and I stripped it back to keep it simple. And it's a bit of a Stanley Kubrick thing with The Shining. There was a lot of information in the book and in the original scripts, and then you just start editing it all out. And the more information you edit out from these people, the creepier it becomes, because you haven't got information to apply to things. So you make the audience less comfortable. And the whole opening act, I mean, in my head, the wife's the hero in this. She's not, but she's painted as a villain, and that's only because you see it from two perspectives: a jealous husband who's lost her, and a mother who absolutely hates her in the first place anyway. And it's just their projections of her. Whereas in actual fact, she's probably an absolutely lovely person. But so that first act is gone, because if you'd have kept that in, those two characters, Eric and the mother, would have just seen that horrible bit. Why am I watching these horrible people for the rest of the film? So it's constantly creating that mystery about these people, so the audience have constantly got to try and figure things out. And I love filmmaking like that, particularly when you can get some great actors, which I was lucky enough to get, who can just play it all out in their head and just come across on camera with certain gestures and body language which make you uncertain. They 100% get their characters. That in itself is, most of the work's done then. But the original script, like I say, I mean, I was inspired by that Small's Lighthouse story, but to make it more Welsh by changing the job to a shepherd, and we kept the lighthouse in there, made the island much bigger, changed one of the characters to a dog instead of and so and really then ratchet up the isolation element of it, because one of the things I love doing is creating a sense of space, a sense of atmosphere. And I like all the as a filmmaker, all the elements of the cinematography. I really like going to town on that, and the production design and the music and the sound. As a filmmaker, that is all those elements. It's not just the performers. You write the characters out, these or that, and when it comes to them, between action and cut, they become the storytellers. Nothing else I can do. I've managed to do everything I possibly can with all the other departments, and then everyone just has to, when I say action, they've got to do their job, and hopefully, if I've done my job, it'll all come across and make sense. So that was always in place. But I think the biggest thing that changed, that there was no purpose for him really to be on that island, apart from like, I'll take this job, and based on those jobs you would see, and then it has like 10,000 applicants, and it's on the news because everyone's like, ideal job, and I always just think that's not an ideal job. So that could go wrong very quickly. So I had a friend who lost his life to depression years in 2016. And after that taught me a lot about that mentality. So I pulled it off the shelf and restructured it with a different purpose to Eric, and then it all made sense. And then once I was happy with that, the ball started rolling then. And I managed to get myself into a position where I had an opportunity to get the money for it. So I just threw myself in hook, line, and sinker, and was lucky enough to get it.
You left your father here alone. You left him here because of her. You're only here now because she's dead.
You've no place talking about my wife.
And you've no place here. You can go.
I can relate to what you've said as well. I lost my cousin to depression in 2010, and the film deals with some very difficult subject matters in terms of loss and grief, and ultimately truth as well, and facing up to your actions, and obviously running away doesn't solve it. And that's one of the things that I particularly liked. You have a man and his dog on an island. There has to be something that really hooks you in. Besides the supernatural element, there has to be something that really grips you in terms of the character and the journey that they go through. And that was I thought particularly well done. The thing that I like as well in terms of horror is it's one of these great genres that enables you to go on a journey, whether it's cathartic or to a lesser end, I guess, a worse end with Shepherd, not to give anything away, but it's not the best result for him. Is that one of the reasons that you kind of looked at horror as a genre, because of it's one of those unique things that you tend to find in that and no other genre?
Yeah, I mean, horror. Horror, for whatever reasons, particularly sometimes with certain critics, can get quite a bad rap, and which is weird because it's a genre there where there's so many pioneers and so many things have changed, and it always pushes the envelope. I mean, even again with filmmakers like Ari Aster and Jordan Peele, and at the moment are opening new avenues. It's constantly changing, and it's and responding to things more so than any other genre, I think. And for me, it was the best illustration of that point of view. Rather than it being a drama about something, you're able to get inside somebody's head, and of course it's a horror film if somebody's suffering from that level of depression. So it made perfect sense. It's the same with I just name check Jordan Peele there. Get Out, about racism, makes you understand more about racism if you don't experience it, because he's not doing a drama about racism, which we've all seen and go, oh, that's awful. But then you carry on with life. He's illustrating the feeling. This is what it feels like to be on that receiving end of racism. Yeah. So it's a horror film, and that's a brilliant way of using a genre to get that point across, and really smart and clever. And for me, it's the best genre just because it's the one that really does it tells you a lot more about an audience than any other genre does, because people, I don't like it, or they'll scream, or they'll freak out about certain things. Like I said, somebody thought and deliberately going back to taking out that first act of All About Rachel in Shepherd, when you don't know anything about her character, you make judgments about her because all you're seeing is his idea of her and his mother's idea of her. So people come away going, oh, well, why was she such nasty? And she didn't get a good fair rap, things like that. So you're making, assumptions that she is, without actually stopping for a moment and realizing two other people have told you who that person is. So it's, and it's genres like that. Horror, like I said, opens up more opportunities to explore different areas than I think most other, and in a more engaging way as well.
I think audience-wise as well, it opens up new newcomers to horror as well, because of how it allows you to deal with these other aspects of life, like you say with depression. So the one that kind of immediately sprang to mind yesterday after I'd watched the film was The Babadook.
Yeah.
you know, in terms of grief and depression. I think one of the films that would make a good double bill with this is the other Chic movie from last year, Lamb. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it, but again, grief, loss, sort of depression, and just that very unique atmosphere and twist. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to see it.
Well, I did, and I saw the BFI Film Festival, and it was in the same category as Shepherd. And then a couple of other people have been script, like there was a cinema in Lake District did a double bill. It was Lamb and Shepherd for special, and I think in Shetland they did. So there's quite a few people have jumped on that at the cinemas, and they are showing double bills, which is great. And it's great.
Yeah,
Brilliant film. Yeah, it's a brilliant film to be associated with. But yeah, it makes sense, you know, Chic theme.
Yeah, absolutely. They were obviously all flocking to see it.
Yeah.
You mentioned the BFI as well. I understand that Shepherd had its you know, UK premiere there. Were you? I'm assuming you were in attendance, and if so, how was that experience? How was it received?
Oh, it was amazing, and you know, it was received really well. I mean, I didn't think you know, any of the big festivals would pick it up or pay attention. I mean, again, it's horror, so it's not really the sort of thing that I thought would breach, you know, the boundaries of major festivals and things like that. I mean, some love it, others, you know, or it's not quite. So for the BFI to turn around, and a really lovely letter from Trisha Tuttle, the director of the festival, about the film, that was huge for me, because I you know, I wanted to get the film off the ground. I wanted to get it out of my head, and I wanted to do the best job I possibly could, but I didn't expect to be part of a festival like that. So that was amazing. It was a really good experience. Yeah, and you know, is encouraging in terms of a bit of an acknowledgement, like, yeah, no, you're doing the right thing, you're going in the right direction, you know, with your how you make films and your career path. So rather than, you know, some people can get put down in the past about short films, and they go, oh, that was rubbish, or that didn't quite work. And I tend to do a lot of work with sales agents and financiers who regardless, it's always negative. It's always like, oh no, audiences don't like that, and oh yeah, that didn't quite work, did it? And so you're constantly getting that. So for somebody and a festival of such repute to turn around and say, oh yeah, I'd love you to be part of it, that was great.
Yeah, I should imagine so. It's a shame I wasn't able to get there. I missed it on the big screen, but I must say it translates very well on a small screen as well. You know, the sense of isolation that you were able to convey, and the sense of the place as well, as you said earlier, the Isle is a character in itself, and it was very otherworldly, and it made you feel the chill. It made you kind of feel the wind, and it was absolutely a key character for me, and it was beautifully shot. One of the other things I wanted to come back to was where you were saying a little earlier on about the cast and being lucky with them. I mean, you know, obviously Eric Black in the leads. You know, he sort of came to prominence back in, I think it was like 2010, I think, with the Ricky Gervais's film, and Kate Dickie and Greta Scacchi as well. I mean, you couldn't ask for more. The 10 plus years of you know, endeavors, and then you land a cast like that. I mean, you must have been exceptionally happy.
Yeah, no, I was over the moon. Yeah, I mean, it was a big, particularly with Eric Black, that character. That was a big search, because that person has to carry the entire film, and Tom Hughes was at the top of the list, of Gemma's list, who's the casting director, and I had all these ideas about all sorts of different people. No, this guy. I've read the script. It's this guy. And in the end, the script went out to him, and and I didn't think he'd say yes, but he did. But he didn't give much away. He didn't rehearse. He'll do read through and things like that. He says, "I'm going to save it and then I'll show you." So it was nervous, sort of like the first day rolling, and then he just like came on all in full costume and did it, and it was brilliant. You know, really, really easy to work with between action and cut. He just absolutely got it, and you know, his sense of timing and pacing and you know, levels of anxiety for the character, he nailed. But then, you know, obviously the other characters, I mean, Kate Dickie, that character was originally supposed to be a guy, and all I had in my head was Captain Birdseye, and it was really annoying. So I was like, you know, what if we change it to a woman? And Gemma just turned around and said Kate Dickie. I thought there's no way we're going to get Kate Dickie in it. She's not going to say yeah. And then I got a phone call. She'd read the script, and it was Kate Dickie. And we must be on the phone for about 3 hours talking about the character. She's brilliant. And really, really seriously gets involved and thoroughly, you know, she's so dedicated and loves her job. She's so good in it. And Greta Scacchi as well. I was like, oh, we're not going to get Greta Scacchi doesn't do a role like this. This is like some sort of, you know, frumpy, angry old religious woman. Greta Scacchi's not going to play that role. And she did. She immediately said, yeah, she wants to have the wig. She wants to put all this clothing on. She doesn't want to be, you know, the Greta Scacchi people know from, you know, that she wanted to be this extremely opposite, completely unglamorous northern working farm mum and heavily, and she absolutely lapped it up. It was amazing working with her, and again, you know, there's barely anything you have to do between action and cut. She immediately got it and she just went straight into character, and they all made my life very easy. And Gaia Vise, who plays his wife, obviously she had a very tricky job because she wasn't playing a character, she was playing somebody else's projections of a character in 3 different things. Yes. But she threw her all behind it, and 100%. She's a very dedicated actor too. So she, yeah, I mean, completely lucky, and particularly with films like this, you know, cast is everything. I mean, you know, they are your storytellers. You know, bad casting always sort of stands out. So I was really, really lucky, because I would have happily just put the film on hold and just waited until we found the right people and the timing was right to get it. Otherwise, you know, it just wouldn't have worked. So yeah, it was brilliant.
I hadn't even heard of this place. It's a far way out west.
Breathing space, Mr. Black. Just that, right? The old cottage. That's your home now.
It's just me and you, Baxter. It's just me and you.
Well, I think our campaign, we can start now for Kate Dickie's next Captain Birdseye. What do we think?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
put her up there with some stuffed fish and.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'd love to get her back on that boat in another same character, different film. Yeah, no,
absolutely. It was a lot of fun watching her, and the whole kind of omens as well. You know, you get on the boat, and you know you've got a sort of like a one-eyed boat captain that's sort of talking in fairly, again, ominous tones. You get off the boat, there's a line that she won't cross, but you step over it and you're like, oh god, this is all going to horribly badly. That was the other thing that I particularly enjoy as a horror fan, is those things where you pick up on it. As I said, you know, we've stepped over the line, you know, there's a toll of a bell, and you're just going, yeah, this is going to go badly, and it just builds that tension, builds that sort of suspense, and keeps it going, and it really does sort of deliver. Some of the standout scenes for me was with Greta, where she is in the kitchen washing the dishes, and then she sort of cuts herself with a knife. One of my other particular favorites actually was on board the ship, and you know, Eric sort of keeps his back and head turned. He senses that there's something there, but just makes a run for it. I thought they were fabulous, and I thought the design of the spectre or witch, however way she would refer to it, was very, very good. I thought it was similar to some things that I've done before, but there was just something different. It looked like there was almost a watery shimmer there, and and just very little movement, but enough to really chill your bones. Was that something that you were also very hands-on in terms of how they looked?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, and those scenes have been in my head for a long time, with him on the boat, knowing something's behind him and all the rest of it. I mean, yeah, I mean, the costume was great by Gigi. She did an amazing job in it, but that one was a struggle. And I just, luckily we weren't filming with it for a while. We filmed the first funeral scene, and it was in silhouette, and the costume wasn't quite ready then. And I just said, look, it needs more to it. I don't want it to be like, a wraith from Lord of the Rings or anything like that. It's not that. It's something. So they put hose pipes inside it, so water would pour out of the hood. And then they just spent most of the time whilst we're on the Isle of Mull for 2 weeks before they shot the scenes with the hooded figure, finding seaweed and bits of old rope and all sorts of stuff, and sewed hundreds of these things into it and changed it and recut it. And underneath there was a whole pirate's outfit with like the big boots and the waistcoat, leather waistcoat and everything, but you never see it, and this big lantern. Because it just needed to be something which wasn't quite, it was like, it might have come out of the sea, so it wasn't, someone like some hooded figure, or although it symbolizes death, not sure what it is. It resembles something. So it's so yeah, I mean, although it's all familiar territory, I just wanted to do my take on it, and it usually comes in subtle ways, so that and little nods and story points that help push it along. So yeah,
the ingenuity as well for the costume department and the effects people to put those pipes in to get the water flowing, and everything that to be developed practically and all done in screen is still my favorite way of viewing things. And I know sometimes CGI does get used, and I'd rather it will be used as a complementary aid rather than completely replacing the practical effects. But again, that's something else that I particularly enjoyed, was that practical element, especially, again, not wanting to give too much away with the scene with the sheep on the post and stuff. That was a proper sort of whoa moment, and it really kind of seared into your brain, because I was still thinking about that this morning when I got up. So well done.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was that was another one. That was one of the first scenes that was in my head, and I was hoping with a redraft I could keep it, because I was like, I hope it makes sense, and it made more sense by the time I got to it to me. But it was also it just jumps out because it's the last thing he'd expect to see coming out of that lighthouse. So yeah, it always jumps. I had great fun filming that.
Perfect. Well, Russell, thank you again for speaking to us. Best of luck with Shepherd's Home release. And I believe you got, as you mentioned earlier, you got a new film coming up. I think that's a thriller. So I look forward to seeing that, and hopefully we'll get to speak to you again soon.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Take care.
Wake up! Wake up!